Hello everybody, and welcome back to yet another vlog. This time, you might still need a couple of shotguns and swords, maybe even a magic staff of some sort to fend off the invading zombies that might have infested my dead YouTube channel. So be prepared for that if any zombies happen to just randomly attack me out of the blue, okay? In any case, I wanted to do another vlog kind of as on a different topic, but still going into kind of almost like a part 2 of the last vlog that I did. If any of you guys have actually seen that, awesome, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, then I'll leave a link in the description below so that way you can get a sense of kind of what I'm referring to in this one. The thing is, with that last vlog, as I said before, I don't necessarily remember if I said that before, I wanted to make it a little bit more for me. It was meant more for venting. A lot of things that wanted to just get off my chest. A lot of things that I had never actually openly spoken about. Maybe to a few choice people, but even then there's a lot of other things that I know that I haven't necessarily said. So, again, this was more of me kind of coming to light and coming to terms with a couple of things that had been plaguing my mind for quite some time. So again, like I said, that vlog was more for me than anybody else. And like I said before, if you got a kick out of it or gotten something out of it, then I'm glad that I was able to help out in some way, shape, or form. In this one, as I said before, this is kind of going to be more of a continuation about another topic along the same lines, which has to do with relationships. Now, I know I had did a vlog, actually this is probably the very first vlog that I've ever done for the channel, which was back in, God, now I think about it, what was it, geez, was it Valentine's Day this year, maybe? I don't know, it's been quite some time, now that I think about it, since I did my first ever vlog for the channel. That's another thing that had been a bit of a problem for me to handle over time, and I've had a weird kind of inkling, or not necessarily inkling, but a weird, for lack of a better word, just a weird kind of thought process when it came to relationships. And it's gotten a little bit more brought to light due to some conversations that I've had with several people, one person in particular, and if they're watching this video, they should technically know who they are. One thing, and this was back into a talk that I had with the same friend who helped inspire the last video that I did of this sort, was that, in a sense, everybody in some way, shape, or form should have a companion of some sort, is what she said. Now, to a point, that's very true. The human body, by nature, needs and craves companionship almost as much as, if not as much as, eating, sleeping, actually just the natural characteristics of what the body needs. Relationship and that kind of companionship can be one of them. Not to say that this is I'm not saying that this necessarily applies to everybody, because it doesn't. There's some people who are just fine and dandy on their own for this, that, and the other reason. But for most people, it tends to be having somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can have a hug, somebody that you can just interact with on a daily basis about everything that's going on with you, etc. Just having that kind of interaction with each other. It's important because what can happen, and I'm speaking from my own experience, you end up becoming more reclusive. And I think that's one of the other things that might have happened to and caused my extreme depression that I had, was the fact that I was essentially lonely. Again, as I've said many a time before in the last video, didn't really have many people to talk to here in person. Now, I do have my friends who I do talk to online. You all know who you are. Those who are very dear and near to my heart, which I'm saying this yet again for probably the umpteenth time. Thank you so much for being there. Without your support and just generally checking in on me, even at times when I don't even expect you to, it helps, and it means so much that you actually care, to where many others haven't in the past. So, one thing that a friend of mine brought up to me, kind of as I said before, with the whole companionship thing, don't really have much of that. And when it comes to even just dating in general, it's been a bit of a slippery slope. Not to say that I'll be the first to admit that my relationships haven't necessarily been the best. They haven't necessarily been the worst either, too, compared to some others. Because I know many people who've gone through quite a bit of ordeals dealing with other peoples and such. And my mindset and my opinion when it came to relationships was very, how do you put it? It was very negative. And I'm going back towards my own, not just my own relationships, but more so as my relationships with my family. And to delve a little deeper, it's been quite some time, and I'm only referring to my family. When I was growing up, I never really had a positive outlook on relationships in general. My folks, unfortunately, they had their own problems, and a lot of that kind of seeped downwards. They weren't necessarily the most happiest of couples, and they still aren't to this day, unfortunately. They have their problems, and as I've had talks with them many a times, they're more much like roommates rather than actually a couple. Which is a shame, because when you think about getting married, having that type of close connection with somebody, you would think that everything would just be, like fairy tale romances and such. Which, unfortunately, reality tends to kick that into the face. That kind of trickled down into my own perspective of relationships, because, quite honestly, relationships terrified me in some senses. I had been so afraid that I would end up in the same boat, even with knowing how things would have gone. How I could see, the different signs of how the person is. And I was even scared of the signs that I wouldn't be able to see until it was too late, per se. It terrified me. It made me just dread even the thought of relationships, even though I desperately wanted one. I wanted that type of companionship. I joke with my friends and that I love to live vicariously through them, because I love the concept of romance, the concept of being in love, finding that special someone, even though my perspective and my honest opinion on that isn't necessarily all that romantic. But I love the concept. It's very cute. It's very optimistic that you be able to find that special someone, and the fact that there's that special someone out there. And in a sense, when my first outlook on it has always been that it's not so much the fact that there's a special someone, it's just happenstance. Who you end up with depending on the decisions you make in your life, where you go, who you meet, etc. And to a point, that still does hold true. And I believe that there are more people out there that you have a better chance of having a close connected relationship due to what you like, what you don't like, how you mesh with each other. Because just because you may not necessarily be in a relationship with them, or maybe want to be in a relationship with them, there's many people that you just have good chemistry with. That, when you're together, you have so much fun, and that you are essentially really happy with each other. And for a lot of time, I thought that, not so much for other people, but for myself, that wasn't a possibility. Due to my own fear and my lack of confidence in myself, too. That there was something physically, mentally, emotionally wrong with me that would make either other people just kind of steer away from me in relationship-wise. And growing up, that was a mindset that I had dead into my being. And I hate to admit it. When I was growing up, especially in high school, I was unfortunately one of those type of people who felt that if I was nice enough to enough people that relationships would come to me aplenty. Now, thank God I wasn't one of those super obnoxious people who were overly upset and angry at other people. I never took that out on anybody, thank goodness. And maybe to a point, I did hold some frustration towards other people when that happened, but not near to the degree that I've seen, that you've seen on like the internet and stuff, especially when that started coming full circle years and years ago. And it still happens today, unfortunately. Thank goodness I wasn't one of those to the extreme. But it was still enough to the point where I still, what's the word I'm looking for here? I still kind of see it as a black spot as far as how I view myself in the past. It's nothing that I'm happy about. I'm not happy about it at all. I cannot believe that young me, knowing myself today, would have done that. But unfortunately, we are different people at different times in our lives. And that was just, I like to think, as a dark part of that part that, and eventually came to the me today. Hopefully that came out right. By the way, I'm just letting you know I am running literally on like 4-5 hours of sleep, but I've been up since like 1 a.m. in the morning, so half the crap that I'm talking about may not be anywhere near cohesive, and if it is, I greatly apologize. You can tell me in the comments below, Mr. Dark, you don't make any fucking sense, and that's okay. I'm just trying to get my thoughts out there, and again, this is just to help me and maybe help a person or two out there that might be going through the same thing or thinking the same thing or have had similar experiences. But back to the topic at hand. Yes, I unfortunately was one of those people, but later on came to realize that there's going to be some people who are not going to see you in that romantic light. And that's okay. That is so okay. Nobody should be expected to say yes if somebody has interest in you, because it's essentially a two-lane street. Both people have to be interested in each other. If this was one person, unfortunately, that one person just has to deal with the fact that the other person that you show interest in doesn't show any interest in you, no matter how much you may want it. And to a point, I did believe that. I understood that as I got older. But it was in a more negative light. To the point, as I said before, where my confidence was just in the shitter. And I never thought that a relationship was even humanly possible for myself. Which, now understanding that, because I feel like I didn't have much care for myself. I went to, again, thoughts all over the place. I want to be able to go and stop thinking like that. I want to be a little bit more optimistic, as I said in my other video. Not just on just everyday life, but this as a major portion of my life. Because I would love to be in a relationship. Do you know how much I scream on the inside for the amount of cute shit a lot of my closest friends and their relationships, the people, what they do with each other? Oh my God, it's freaking adorable. I can't even stand it. Just thinking about it right now is just making me scream on the inside. And I'm holding every ounce of my being back to not just scream at the top of my lungs, just fanboying over that type of stuff. And for those people who know, you know who I'm talking about. You know the people that oh my God, you just know. You just know who you are that I'm referring to. And that said, I would love to be in a relationship like that. Now, do I still fear that things are not going to go right? Of course. Everybody fears that things are not going to go right. My fear, and another fear that I had, was probably the fact that because growing up I was so desperate to find that special someone when I was younger, I was worried that I would let my feelings get in the way of seeing the person for who they truly are. and essentially being just locked in a relationship similar to how my parents were, similar to how my grandparents were, because my grandparents were even worse. It was almost to the point that they barely talked to each other after being married for almost 50 years. Imagine that. 50 years in a relationship with somebody who you barely even talk to. You live with them every single day, and you barely talk to them unless you absolutely need to. It was like the ultimate, like it was like having a roommate that you just despise. But you only despise them just, you like them just enough to tolerate them being there in the same place as you were. And I'm terrified, still now, more so than I was before, but I'm terrified that might happen. But with all that being said, with all that fear, that isn't something that should dictate how I look at things. It shouldn't dictate how I look at people, because that played also into why I was scared of people for so much. I was scared of making those relationships with people to have people do a 180 on me, which I've had happen in the past. Now, part of the reason probably was stupid stuff that I did. I can openly admit to that. And if you're one of those people that you feel as though that I may have done stupid stuff when I was younger, if you know me for that long, I'm sorry. I'm coming to a realization of a lot of the stuff that wasn't necessarily other people's fault, but more my fault. And I will say one thing, with the few relationships that I have been involved in, I will say that I got out of them quite quickly and got back on my feet and moved on from them. I didn't dwell. Granted, I dwelled in a different sense, but I didn't dwell to the point where I was putting the blame on them. And I'm so happy with myself in that regard that I didn't take the route that I did when I was younger and put the blame on them when openly it could just have been my fault as anything else. Because as I said before, sometimes people just aren't compatible. Sometimes things change. Sometimes circumstances change. And with those changes, you have to make a decision and weigh your options. Is it worth it to continue? Is it worth it to go on with things as they are? Or is it time to move on, branch out, do something different? And I'm glad at least the younger me understood that to the point. The very young me didn't, and I wanted to just freaking slap him in the face in those regards. But I'm glad I understand. The part that I'm coming to terms with is that I took it in such a negative light that I denied myself the chance of even looking to the possibility of making a relationship happen. And I'll be honest, it was to a point where I was pretty low on myself, to where I ended up doing some unquestionable things. Now, when I say unquestionable things, questionable things. Now, when I say questionable things, I'm not necessarily saying that it's anything bad that I would do harm to myself, but it was just that I wasn't taking care of myself like I should. And there was a couple of times when I was really worried about myself, and there's plenty of other people who were really worried about my well-being for some of the things that I've done. And some of that is still trickling into things now, like the forgetting of the eating and the knock of the sleeping and all that other stuff. But I think that's just something that I'm going to work on, not necessarily directly correlated into that as a direct reason as to why I'm doing those things, but it's still a whole part of the whole pie that I'm seeing and I'm coming to terms with. And that's really what these vlogs, the past two of them, have been. It's just me coming to terms with a lot of things. And with coming to terms with them, figuring out a way to overcome, get better, adapt, adjust, deal with a lot of these anxieties and doubts that I've been having. And I'm hoping now with my new lease on life and my new view on things, that even that part of my life, which I hope does improve in the near future, does get better, and I'm able to approach things to where one day, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to find that special someone too. And if you're out there thinking the exact same thing that I've been thinking, and if you're out there thinking that, oh, what are you talking about, Mr. Dark? That's never going to happen to me. Who knows? Who knows what life has in store for us? Tomorrow is never promised. We never know what to expect. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't try. It doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't look to the future. Even if the current, the now, is so stressful, so bleak, that it's hard to look towards the future, you gotta try. Even if it's for one thing, you gotta try. Because if you don't look towards the future to something, to some possibility of things getting better, it never will. Remember, as I said before, the world ends with you. And only you have the potential to open up your world, to let new things in, to branch out, to make things better. So, thank you all so much for listening to me ramble once again. Thank you all for listening. Again, if you guys get something out of this video and you learn something from it, great, I'm glad. If you learn something about me, some nice things, some bad things, I'm glad too. Because again, the videos are meant more for, and I'm starting to come to terms with, more for me coming to terms. God, I've said that thing about five times in this video. I must be really tired. I probably should take a nap after this or something like that. But I have so much I gotta get done that's probably not gonna happen. So yeah. I just hope that you guys out there have learned something both about me and something, and maybe gotten some more insight as far as your own situation. And even if this helps one person or more, I'm happy that you got something out of this. So, until the next video, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for listening to me. And until next time, this is Mr. Dark, signing off.